is for both coasts, correctly.
It's all about income. Yeah, exactly.
Well, what's behind the camera?
All right, so hello, welcome. How many, just show of hands, how many of you this is your first time? By the way, we're streaming to Facebook Live. This is a new one for me. So hi everybody in Facebook if you're watching. Show of hands, who's never been here before? Wow, a lot of new timers. Show of hands, who's never been in VR before? Okay, I like the fact that that number keeps going down. My name is Matt Wren. I am the founder of this meetup, which is the VR Chicago meetup, so hopefully you're in the right place. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors who've always been behind us from the start. Bundle AR, John Wave, say hello. That's our CEO.
How are you?
I'm also the co-founder and chief technology officer of Bundle AR, so oddly enough, they like to sponsor us. FinTank, where's Kazi? Kazi, thank you. He'll say something in a moment. And then Origin Development and IT, which is my old company that actually hasn't really done much since we founded Bundle AR. I am going to start off today a little bit different. We're going to talk about a few things that have happened just recently because there's a lot of news in virtual reality, augmented reality world. Number one, just recently, VR AR Association Global Summit took place September 21st and 22nd in Vancouver. Big news that came out of that is, someone's calling me. The big news out of that was primarily they think that there's a lot of focus on content for VR, primarily. OC5, who knows about OC5 and all the stuff that came out of there? The big news out of OC5 is the Oculus Quest. I don't know if we have an, well, it's not coming out until next spring, I believe, but the Oculus Quest effectively is kind of like an Oculus Rift, only you don't need a PC and you don't need wires. It's completely wireless, completely hands-free, completely untethered. I haven't tried it yet, but I have 3 friends who did try it. They were out at OC5 and they said it's kind of amazing. The other big thing out of OC5 that I kind of want to point your attention towards is there was an article that they just published recently about what they expect to see in VR hardware for the next 5 years. I'll post a link to the article in the meetup page and on the Facebook page and stuff afterwards, but that's a really cool article if you guys kind of want to see where things are going. A little bit of business about business, what's going on just in the industry. Apple, oddly enough, bought another company called Informal Holographics that actually happened at the end of September that makes lenses. So the rumors about Apple going to be coming out with some augmented reality glasses, they won't say anything official, but they bought a lens company, so I don't know why they do that otherwise. Local news, a company called Jaunt, which is a big company out of California, bought a local company's technology, personifies the Chicago company. They had a technology called Teleporter, which was effectively augmented reality, literally 3D teleporting a person live, and Jaunt bought it. Jaunt bought that technology. Immersive tech and real estate. Did anybody see the art on the Mart installation where they literally did a giant projection mapping on the merchandise mart? So that's happening now. It's kind of cool to see. Not really VR AR, but it's happening. Older news, Magic Leap came out. I'm not going to say much more about that. Unity 2018, this actually came out of the Unity conference that was a couple months ago. Unity 2018 is making a lot of VR AR development a lot easier. They put a lot more tech in there that just sort of streamlines things, which is really neat. And on personal news, which is kind of big for this meetup particular, and myself, as of last month, I am officially the Chicago chapter president of the VR AR Association. So we are going to have a lot more happening here. I hope you all will get involved. You'll see more news about that coming out. I actually didn't even announce that on social media or Facebook or anything. I wanted to make the announcement here first. So that said, I want to toss this really quickly over to our hosts for the night, which is Metis.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Caroline. For everyone who is your first time, welcome to Metis. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Just a little bit about Metis. We're a data science educator. So in this space, we run 12-week intensive boot camp. Boot camps for cohorts every year. We also have a corporate training, data science corporate training, and then professional development courses online as well. So, yeah, it's a little bit about Metis, and welcome, and I hope you guys enjoy the day.
Cool, so if you have any questions about the space or what they do,
Yeah, please
see her.
reach out to me.
Kazi, you want to say a word real quick? Kazi's from FinTank. He's been one of our sponsors from the start. Go for it, Kazi.
Thank you, Matt. And yeah, we are FinTech, the global FinTech hub of Chicago. And we are doing 2 conferences that are coming up. One is on October 19th, that is on blockchain. And another conference, with all these IoT devices and everything. So everybody's worried about cyber security. So we are doing another conference in partnership with IIT. It's on November on cybersecurity. And a few panels, one is on the blockchain and another one it's highly regulated areas like healthcare, finance, insurance. So that those are different panels we have. And you guys, if possible, sign up and attend the event. And it is there on the Eventbrite, and Matt will send you guys link. Thank you.
All right, so who has been here before again? Sorry. The format for this event, just so you guys are aware, there are not going to be any presentations. We are here to answer your questions, help you take whatever your next step is in virtual reality, augmented reality. I have a panel here. They're real estate experts. I'm going to toss it to them in 1 second. Other thing I wanted to bring up on the events front. Next week at 1871, there are going to be 4 free training sessions on virtual reality and 360 video. They are sponsored by AT&T. The VRAR Association is also co-sponsoring them. And then on October 20th is the 2112 Immersive Tech Conference, which we will all be at as well. Or several of us will be at in the industry. Other than that, I'm going to just let my panel introduce themselves. And Bundle AR, if you guys want to hear from them, they have a very big demo set up, so John can talk to you back there. I saw a lot of people talking to you already.
Just make sure all the panelists talk loud because it's noisy, right? So, you know, Mike?
Can you guys hear us? No? That thing's too loud?
No, talk loud.
Give me a second. Where's Caroline? I have a microphone. I don't know how well it works.
Try that.
Let's find out. How loud is this? Nope.
I know a couple of tech guys we could send over. Or ladies.
So, sorry guys, go ahead. I'm going to find Caroline and we'll do this. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ben Azula. I'm a principal with Bradford Allen Realty Services. We're a full-service real estate advisory firm. We work with companies to help them with their office space needs.
Hi, I'm Devinder Kohli. I'm the founder of Exit Studios. So I run a VR company and we make virtual displays for the kitchen bath industry. So if you are going to the kitchen bath store, you're no longer limited to a physical display, which is obviously considering one option. Now you can put on the headset, immerse yourself in a variety of different layouts, change the countertops, change the floor, change the paint color wall, change the cabinets, and see the experience holistically.
My name's Dave Cole. I'm Marketing Director with First in Promotions. We're a real estate marketing and advertising agency, and one of my clients that I'm here for tonight is Ballistic VR. We just set up all the way in the back, so do stop by afterwards. We'll show you what we can do. Our plan is to work with builders and developers to help them sell their properties before they're even completed. So with virtual reality, we can point out, because we do it to scale, the architectural drawings and blueprints, so that that's better, so that we can let them know that we can bring them approved buyers. We're partnered with a lender for their homes, their units, their apartments before they're even completed. So it's something we're very excited about. Do stop by and see us after.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana Mihalovich. I'm the founder and principal of Context Group. I know the name was confusing for some back there. We build immersive technology and visual tools for real estate not yet built. So our goal is to help commercial real estate owners market and sell real estate before it is developed, but also collect data on user feedback before they actually complete a project. So there is value in data-driven design, and there is actually data information behind design decisions, and not just anecdotal and empirical knowledge of why things are done and how.
Don't mind me, I'm actually taking pictures of you all.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so first question. Who's up? What do you guys want to know? This is all about you and what questions you want answered. So that was the end of our presentation part.
I have a question. We're in the process of doing VR for a show that we own.
Okay.
And, we're currently working with VR, MyR 360 Seattle hosting. I'm wondering if you have a good recommendation for some local hosting, people that are based out of Chicago for actually
For VR hosting.
hosting.
What do you mean by hosting?
Well, meaning by the time I get the entire thing built, so you can walk through the show, move your goggles, and do your thing,
I think generally a challenge with, and I would have to get a better understanding of the size of your URL file. Generally the challenge is that these applications are too demanding to live live on the web. They just require too much engine power, and most of your users wouldn't be able to run it on their standard computers anyways. So, what we typically advise is if your goal is to do mass distribution where people would not have to come down to actually put a physical VR headset in your space, but do it at home with, let's say, Samsung Gear, we usually advise that those stores be optimized to 360 VR walkthroughs because they're much less demanding technically, and you'll probably have a better luck with user adoption and people actually experiencing the space than running a full-blown interactive VR.
Okay, if I may add to that, hopefully this will fit. We're actually working with the local real estate office on the ability to set up so that they could do the version on the monitor when they're at the location, then do a screen share like a GoToMeeting type thing, and be able to have the host, the person in the showroom in your case, on with them on the phone. They could download an app and you would be on the phone with them saying, okay, let's go to the right, let's look at this. Oh, did you want to see this? Did you want to see that? And then at least it does not involve hosting. So if that's something that's workable, that's at least shorter term, you can talk to me or Akiva sitting right behind you. So that's one way to at least be able to accomplish it sooner than the technology may allow.
So one of the things that we do at Exxon Studios is that we host 360 content. I should rephrase that. 3D model content. So 360 content is all videos that you can host on Google and a lot of little places. But what we do is, but you have to build the system according to our platform. But you can create an entire showroom and host it on our platform. When customers go to the kitchen and bath, stores, they can download that content and immerse themselves and change things around. The downside of 360, of course, is that you cannot change anything around that. It's all videographed. But with 3D models, you can. We can talk a little bit more about that. Sure.
Who's next?
Yeah.
I'll repeat the question.
For those of you who are dealing with representing properties that are soon to be built or not finished, how do you source your content? You mentioned architectural floor plans. I think you mentioned 3D models. Where are you getting this content from? And my second question is, in terms of liability, how do you handle liability in terms of what you're representing and how close it is to the finished project? Because projects change all the time. There's value engineering, there's issues in the field, and all sorts of necessary changes that just sort of happen. So how do you deal with those two issues? Because you don't know what's actually going to be delivered until it's actually delivered.
So did everyone hear the question? Do I have to repeat it? No.
Cool. Who wants to take it? Go ahead. Go that way.
All right, yeah, couple things on that. We do, at least in our case, based on the architectural drawings, the blueprints, enhanced photos, which before the project's even going to be started, the engineers, the builders, everybody has to have. Also, before it gets out or is completed at our end, we do allow the builder, whoever the client is, to be able to approve everything and make sure that it's to scale. So if something changes along the way, and I appreciate the question, it kind of depends on where we're at in our process in terms of having it ready. In our case, and I'm sure it's also the same with everybody else, there's the ability to maybe do a modification once it's up and running that could be fairly simple and at least wouldn't hold up the virtual reality being available at our end. So that's somewhat on a case-by-case basis, if that's what you're looking to find out. So yeah, it's kind of a working together, and we want it to be as accurate as possible, and that's why we use the blueprints, and we'll get the square footage and get all the information that we need so that it is as accurate as possible.
We don't have that kind of a strict requirement because we do not deliver showrooms, physical showrooms. It's in fact the opposite. So we build virtual showrooms. They already have an existing showroom, so we either will build an extension of the physical showroom in virtual reality or build them a completely virtual showroom. But again, precision is key. We have to work with an architect to make sure your island countertop, island size is exactly the same dimensions that you would expect in the industry. The cabins are the same size as you would expect in the industry. So all of that is taken into consideration, but we're not delivering the physical version of the showroom.
So coming from an architect and as an architect and then working for a developer for many years, I think what's really important to do here initially is educate our real estate clients as to what this tool is and how they're going to utilize it. If the goal is to utilize it as a marketing tool, which is creating excitement and creating engagement with their potential buyers and prospective tenants early on, that kind of sets the expectation that this space is not intended to be used for determining technical details. Now, clearly, as everybody else said, it is paramount that it follows architectural specs, it follows dimensions, it follows blueprints. But we in particular have never had a challenge with liability. And I think for the most part it's because we were very clear from the get-go is this is still way more realistic and way more representative what the space is going to look like than a static image, because it's not, a shot, a wide angle, the rendering from a particular angle where we like it, but it's actually a representation of the space where the user has the freedom to explore it however they want. But one way to really build that, at least in our case, build the room for changes is to create a software in the front end that allows for those modifications easily, and that's through custom coding. So I think that's one of the values of this platform, is that it really is, at the end of the day, it's a software. It's not a rendered image. It's a software that allows you to, for clients that may have that need along the way and want to make changes based on internal feedback or external feedback, they have the capacity to do that throughout the process without dealing with change orders and things like that.
I was just going to say, it also creates opportunity, because someone that's looking at these things, they might look, if they go onto a building on the commercial side that's 50 floors, and they see something on the low rise and they like it, but it's not on the high rise. Creates an opportunity for them to then go back and say, you know what, I really like it over here. Can we have this on the 45th floor as opposed to the second floor? And a lot of times you can have that, and it doesn't involve a whole lot of change.
The colors are very different when you look them in VR, especially we are dealing with granite and custom floors. You can never almost get the same color tone in VR. It's a challenge. So what we do is we just show them the samples on the side. So far it's never become an issue. And as you said, correctly said, so that this is more of a marketing tool than to give you exact dimension of this is how it will. There's no promise made that this is exactly how it's going to look like for you, for the customer.
One second. This is actually a new one for me. Someone Facebook messengered me a question, so I'm going to ask it.
Nice, we're getting popular.
I know, right?
Someone's actually watching this.
And the question I'll throw to the panel is more just, in terms of use cases. So basically, how are you seeing people right now using VR and using AR across the real estate industry, like in pre-construction, in a current construction, in a sales marketing tool? What are kind of just the main use cases you're seeing? I think I got that right.
I kind of see it across the board. So there's a lot of things that I was mentioning before that, I take clients on tours all the time, and instead of taking them out and looking at something, I'm able to direct them somewhere to see it before they've even gone there. So if I'm working with a client that's out of town, and they're interested in a building, I could send them something so they could actually feel it and see it and be a part of it, as opposed to actually coming and touring it. And people make decisions based on that now.
There are two main use cases. One, and both are mostly for VR. For finished spaces, people are using Matterport cameras to do the direct scanning of their homes and doing these walkthroughs, and those are your 360 videos. And those can be mobilized on your Samsung devices or mobile phones. When it comes to unfinished spaces, and maybe you can talk about that a little bit more, you have to do 3D modeling because you want to show them customizations. The customers want to see how the door panel is going to look like, how this window is going to look like, how they need to have the ability to go and interact with that model, and that you cannot do with the 360. So that cannot be put on a mobile experience because the GPU, the underlying graphics processing unit, does not have the horsepower to render that kind of 3D model, unless you're doing really something very simple. So, so the stuff that at least we built is all done on room scale VR, which is on the desktop. So it has to be you have to go into a location to go and experience the unfinished spaces, and the ability to go and change things around.
So you're absolutely correct, and it's a huge challenge because clearly to run, it kind of goes back to the initial question, to run a software like this, it requires a really strong graphics card that can render things in real time. However, there's advancement being made, and I think that's one of the biggest things we focused on is to move that to a cell phone. So our software is now optimized for cell phone use and tablet, and not even the newest version of it. Samsung S8 can run it in similar devices. But the whole point, going back to the initial question, is how it's utilized. We've seen the biggest adoption in marketing commercial real estate to, especially in the apartment industry and office industry, before project delivery. And it really comes from the change of how we consume information. So we see millennials who are used to having instant access to everything, and keep in mind, millennials are not 20-year-olds anymore. It's, they're employees, they're employers, they're people who run startups. They want to see what they're paying, they want to see what they're buying. They're not a baby boomer who would buy a $2 million condo blindly without seeing it first. So really, the demand we're seeing is that real estate owners are getting savvier about realizing, okay, my lender has, their hands to my neck to meet 50% pre-sale, and what tools am I utilizing to reach that? So at this point, I think that's the biggest demand really is coming from that, is mitigating risk for real estate owners and developers, and really giving a better tool that gives instant access and remote access to newer generations that just consume information differently.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would say on the uses, in addition to the before it's built that we've covered earlier, a couple of the options we're seeing are for international properties. We're working with a broker that has representing a villa over in Greece, and now, or once we get this ready for them, before someone goes over to Greece, now they can see exactly what it's going to look like. And then it becomes a matter of, do they want, oceanfront, or do they want it in the mountains, or more, where do they want it? And they know a lot more, they're better educated before they go to Greece or wherever the case may be. Relocation is another thing. We're talking with the developer in Florida, and generally with things like that, it'll be very similar in the interior, where we could do a representative unit. It might be on the West Coast, the East Coast, Central Florida, and things that will vary in the price, but this way, my idea is we could set up a demo of their unit somewhere here in Chicago, or even in like a New York City on a February day, bring them into a room, heat the thing to 85 degrees, have them sweaty, put on the headset, walk around. We tell them this is where you could be living a year from now. Send them out to the 20 below zero and the 8 feet of snow and see what they've got to say. So I think we're just coming up on some of the uses, and again, it's more the ability to have them experience something that's not readily available.
I was just going to say that in addition to something that's not built, a lot of times it's renovating in place.
Right.
Because people are, they're used to using something a certain way, and they're like, this isn't great, but they have a hard time seeing it any different way. And so putting this type of VR and AR in place where they can then use it and see it and feel it, that's even more important. I deal with a lot of clients that, again, they've been in their space for 20 years, and now they want to use it differently because space is used differently, and they can't understand it without actually seeing it.
So you actually reminded me of an app that we built that I completely forgot about. It was a demonstration that we had done a while back. This is, sorry, I try not to talk and just proctor. This is an augmented reality use case that was a construction space. It was basically a raw space. So it was, think about walking into one of these buildings, but the walls aren't painted, it's all just raw. And someone like, me personally, I'm a chief technology officer. I'm not a real estate person. I'm not someone who's an office manager. I have no idea. They're like, oh, well, you could try this layout with, cubes here and a conference room here and bathrooms over here, a kitchenette over here, or this other layout. And I'm sitting here looking at a raw space like, okay. And then he showed me the plans, which were these, flat paper-based drawings. And I'm like, it'd be kind of cool if we could see that in 3D. So what we did is we created an augmented reality app that was actually mapped to the space, so you could literally hold up an iPad and just see the wall, see the table, see the kitchenette. It was all done in augmented reality. You had to be in the space to experience it, so it's not like it's something that could scale out, but it could scale for that whole building. You could effectively have representative floor plans for every space in the building, floors, 1 to 100, and just reuse them. Sorry, your question.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I heard about a developer who hired actors for their open houses to just simulate a family living together in a house. Would that ever be something that you might offer in VR, having like actors play the role of a family inside of the house? Has anybody thought about doing that? Is that worth
Yeah, great question. And just for the people watching, the question was about would we consider having kind of like virtual actors or people to be living in the properties that we're showing. And it's something that, at least at our end, we've talked about. Our reasons for not going ahead with that are that if we have a family with 2 children, and then the people experiencing the virtual reality have no children or 1 child, it throws them off. The idea, and especially from the real estate point of view, is you kind of want to paint the picture with them in it. So we want you to be able to imagine or experience what it would be like if you and your wife, your children, whatever the case might be, are living there, and if it's not properly represented, that might throw that off. However, we've talked about the possibility of having some type of like a narration where you walk in and a voice says, this is the 2nd bedroom, notice this, notice that. And for very much the same reason, we're not sure, because it's such an interactive experience, that we might want to let people do what they're doing and look at what they want to look at, but while they are, we're able to see, and if you catch our demonstration afterwards, we're able to see on a monitor what you are looking at. So we can, in effect, provide that narration. Oh, you mentioned you have a son. Hey, he could be watching TV back in that back corner while you're doing this, or we could kind of do the narration in person for you. So as we use it, where it's an in-person experience, that probably is better left unsaid, at least from our point of view.
Does anyone else want to take that one?
Office space, it'd be a lot easier. So for what I do, every day, there's people working at desks, there's people working in offices, there's people in conference rooms. So certainly that could be something that can be applied to office.
You want to take this? Go for it.
I just add one.
I think one thing that's important about VR is it's a unique experience when you have that headset on. So we actually track user behavior on a back end through APIs to understand hotspots and movement and what people like. And you probably heard of some people saying, I have motion sickness when I put a VR headset on. People are one of the things, other people in the space, especially people that are moving, virtual people, are one of the things that tend to almost have a little bit of disturbing effect on users. and it's really because it's not reality, right? So you end up having artificial interactions or a mimic of interaction that for most people is not a pleasant experience. It may be something that's related to, again, still relatively low user adoption of VR compared to what we're planning or hoping it will be. But generally speaking, static objects that are fully in control of the user, so pulling out a chair or pulling back a chair, opening a door, things that are still interactive and cause some movement but are within control of the end user, are the preferred interactions based on the data we collected.
Just a quick thing, just from a technical perspective, it would be a challenge to have a lot of people, 3D representation of people within a VR experience, because you are, again, I don't know if you ever tried on the mobile phone, but even on a desktop, it would be a challenge because you need to really keep the frame rate up, and having that many objects and realistical objects in a VR scene, it's pretty GPU intensive.
I gotta say though, thanks. That's one I hadn't considered, honestly. It's a neat one. I saw one there. It is.
Have you guys done anything with like multi-user interactions, having two people wear VR headsets and walking through it virtually, or in their family or whatever?
Hey Gareth, you want to answer that? Sorry, he's back there busy.
Repeat that one.
Yeah, sorry. So the question was, what about having multiple people in the same experience? So essentially having two different users interacting within VR simultaneously in the space. For those who didn't hear that one.
Can you elaborate on the question? I mean, what aspect are you looking at? We've done some POCs.
I'm just wondering what you've done with it. Do you like work with it, you've explored it?
We've done experimentation with that. The thing is that the primary user, when they put on the headset, they can do certain actions, and the secondary person can also view exactly what was going on or was controlled by that user. And I know from the gaming industry that both users can take control. You need to sort of develop that code to do the synchronous operation between the two players or two viewers.
Okay. Yeah, I would just add real quickly, and picking up on Deanna's point that if we were to have the two users, then it becomes a matter of control. Because if both people are trying to control, and then also you have it would be a problem. You have the problem where if, let's say, we're the two people, and as Deanna mentioned about the possibility of dizziness, so if Devinder is doing the control and I've got the headset on and going where he wants to go, that could make me dizzy or could be something along those lines. So again, it's not so much that technically it can't be done as much as we need to consider the user experience.
So sorry, I'm going to counter both of them. Yes, I've been in virtual spaces with other people simultaneously. It's not necessarily for a real estate use case, but I've definitely been in VR rendered spaces as well as photorealistic VR rendered spaces. In one case where the people are represented, so we knew that it was a multi-user experience, so you knew other people were in the space, and the people in the space were represented by basically just little avatars. But you're in a photorealistic space and you're able to walk around it and locomote on your own independently of what any one person is controlling. So each person has control of their own avatar, but you can kind of look around and see where the other avatars are. So yeah, we've seen multi-user. It's not something that can't be done. There's a lot of use cases for it. To Diana's, it all depends on use case. Because what, on her end, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things they're trying to measure is what are people interacting within the space. So if you have more than one person in the space, it's going to throw off your metrics because I'm watching this other person move as opposed to looking at the space. But it all comes down to use case. If you're trying to give a guided tour, it makes sense to have multiple people in the space.
Right,
Sorry,
I think
I'll get you next.
I think the whole point is your question makes a lot of sense because in the gaming industry, that's something that's sought after. That's something people want to do. In the real estate industry, there's really no demand for it. I mean, nobody's really had, at least in our case, a big desire to walk through the space with another person simultaneously. So we haven't come across the need for it, but it's certainly a possibility. And again, I think people who are more versed with VR in general, and that's mostly gamers, they are open to those kind of experiences. When you are dealing with someone who is putting a VR headset for the first time in their lives, they're already scared to just hold a controller, let alone like interact with another person. So I think there's that, you know, educational curve that also is where we are right now in the industry.
Question over there.
Yeah.
Has anyone tried expanding the play space by daisy chaining the PlayStation for the Vive?
Sorry.
Has anyone tried expanding the size of the play space or the shape of the play space by using more than 2 base stations? Using kind of daisy chaining those stations.
I mean, you have warehouse scaled spaces now that you can go into.
Right, but say if you were in a pre-configured space, so you're in a place that already has walls, and you would like to be able to navigate the whole space, walk from room to room to room to room, but everything be maintained within VR, and VR matches the constraints of the physical space.
So the question is basically about having an actual physical space that you're walking through, but having it, you know, you're wearing a VR headset and you're walking around the space and you're seeing a VR experience of that space, so possibly like pre-construction, but then configured.
Right, so if you want to go and see a space and the developer doesn't want to spend millions of dollars tricking it out, they can just have raw space and you walk into the headset, walk around the whole space and everything looks like a finished space.
What's the big arcade that you walk through?
I would say the biggest challenge with that is your headset cord, at least in our experience.
Yeah.
So HTC is just, sorry, go ahead.
The demo that we saw was a guy with basically a laptop in a backpack.
Okay.
What's the out by Disney they have one out in California. It's like a warehouse space, but you go through gaming experiences where you're like walking through the spaceship and you got the guns, but the whole VR system's on their backpack and a headset. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. But so.
No, I'm trying to remember the name of the warehouse, the company that's doing it, because they've got a bunch of Void. Thank you. I couldn't think of it. So Void has spaces like this, but you're wearing a backpack and you're like that. I'll let you answer the question. I'm just like, that's what I was trying to get.
It all ends up going to feasibility, right? So the equipment to do that and to do it well and to set it up well and set it up right and have a good experience does not make a lot of sense for real estate owners. Even in most cases, even setting up a fully decked out holodeck room, a sales center with just 2 sensors ends up being a question of ROI. Okay, how many units, how much I can drive occupancy or drive down vacancy by having this, or extend the life of not having to do a physical model. Really it all boils down to how much money we're saving in other marketing efforts or generating revenue in leasing up units or selling spaces faster. That doing something that is extravagant, and that when I say extravagant, because the technology still is not that cheap and available to do that effectively, and I would say cost effectively. We haven't had a chance or a client where that was a demand. The sheer fact that there is motion freedom and the ability to teleport themselves within the virtually built space created enough value for their end user not to have to physically roam through the entire warehouse floor plan.
Yeah, I would add the same thing, that to your point, if rather than having to walk this whole area, that I could just press a trigger right here and have it be like I'm back against those lockers on the back wall over there without having to walk there. And also, if you have stairs or if you have something that's maybe difficult to navigate in walking through a building, you might not want a potential buyer, potential renter, leaser, customer to have to go through that as part of their virtual reality or be concerned about where they're walking. So we have that sometimes too with some of the houses we do, where we can actually have the person walk through the wall to be outside, and they're very hesitant even though there's nothing like but a floor in front of them. So, and I don't mean to counteract your point, but just that there's the possibility of it being a less than positive experience in doing it that way.
Just quickly add to what Diana said about the ROI. Every time that we go to a kitchen and bath showroom trying to sell this unit, they're always questioning the ROI factor. They're always talking about, hey, how much would it be upfront, and then cost of software. So building something which is daisy chained does not even cross their mind, or does not even, we can't even justify that. And
I asked because we have a client who wants to do it.
sure. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally get it. But from the industry that we come from, it's hard enough to sell the unit by just justifying the ROI because it's so new.
No? I was going to say, the one thing I would think on that too is you talk about, going back to our friend back there's question, liability. If you've got somebody walking around and they can't see where they're walking around, I mean, I don't know, has anyone seen the video of the guy who's like at a museum exhibit walking around with, it's actually a mobile-based VR system, and then he literally just walks off a stairwell?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of strikes me as a bad idea. I'm not, again, somebody might want it, and honestly, if someone wants it, someone's going to pay for it, someone's going to develop it, don't get me wrong. It just strikes me as, I don't see, from an investment standpoint, it seems really expensive to do that, and at the same time, why would you? Because you could do everything you want to do without doing that.
But to the why, I'd say the biggest mental constraint of VR at the minute is the fact that you have to teleport. So it's that's the vision from VR becoming truly immersive. You always have this other interaction, just skipping around, rather than just walking towards something.
Honestly, so first of all, I just want to say thank you. Locomotion has come up at literally every single meetup we've held. The concept of locomotion and how it's going to interact with things, and yes, it's an issue, and people are working on different ways of doing it. What's the end game? Who knows? There's lots of solutions for it. Sorry, I want to get a couple more questions in. Yeah.
How do you deal with, you have a building with, let's say, 40 units. It's not sold yet, right? You're trying to sell it. You have 40 salespeople in 12 offices, right? How do you deal with that? Do you have 12 different setups? Do you just have one setup at the building itself? Or what's the best way to deal with that?
I'm going to add to that. What if you have 4 different sales offices around the country, too?
All right, in our case, regarding doing for builders and developers, the virtual reality system is portable. I mean, we're set up in the back, and so to your point, the system could be set up at the office where any of the 4 or 40 salespeople could bring potential clients and show them. It does not have to be set up right at the property. As far as the hardware, that, at least in our case, is separate. So if all 40 people want to spend for their own computer and their own setup and everything, they could do that and have it all over the country or wherever it may happen to be, or they could have one setup, or if they have satellite offices like a Remax or Century 21 where there's different offices around the city, we could have the system be at this office on the North Shore on a Monday and the western suburbs on a Tuesday, however it works out per their marketing plan. And that's something I think that we're all doing in the early stages, is the marketing strategies to go along with it is a part of what we offer. It's not just, here's what we want, get it to us, see you later. It's just that idea that, you don't have to buy 3 different sets of hardware and have to worry about setting them all up. You could move them from location to location, or we will help you, or that type of thing. So hopefully that's, the answer you were looking for, that's something that, I'm sure we all provide for the client based on the need and their use, and try to suggest things sometimes that could save them money, because once that first 40-unit building is sold, we want them to come back to us to help us with their next one.
So I would say we do 2 things. One, we optimize the software to be downloaded via phone or tablet. So whoever wants to tour it can actually do it without physically driving, parking, or going to any leasing location. The reason why that's valuable is because it can start the lease up even before the leasing office or sales office is built, and B, it cuts down the cost of labor for head tours or even building a leasing office or sales center. Second thing we've done that's proven really successful is we've built so-called VR kiosks, which are actually custom designed stands that have embedded the computer, the screen, the touch screen, and the headset. And a couple of our clients had actually placed them in high traffic retail areas. So instead of investing in a leasing office, they have invested in getting a spot at a high traffic mall. This was actually a case in Florida. Open Sky Mall, where they knew there was over 100,000 visitors per weekend. So they actually had organic traffic without anybody actually having to drive to their location. And they've seen huge success with that, because even people who weren't necessarily thinking of trying it or thinking of looking for a new place had ability to experience that wow thing. So they've seen a great return on their investment with that approach.
VR kiosk is a great idea. We've not done it yet, but it's certainly, certainly in the talks, and our client is considering using that as a VR station in locations like malls. Kitchen and bath stores have no place in the malls typically, because it's just boring. They got one display, they got all these racks of 4x4 samples. But now with having a VR station within the mall, they can engage customers for a longer duration, and they can even order from that station itself.
I see also that there's usually kind of a central hub still, only because there's other amenities that people are going to want to feel and see and experience, that they can only do that by seeing something else that was already built. And so it's kind of twofold, at least in the office side of things, because everyone wants to see, okay, well, what's going to be the delivered product? What's it going to look like? What type of amenities are going to be there? And you can't. I don't know that you can really experience that, in 50 different places.
I'm actually going to add a comment from someone who's connected. And basically they said that actually what's kind of cool is that you can see from like mobile experiences, there's almost a progression. You'll see people who will do things remote on a mobile experience that will then drive them to getting into a more immersive actual virtual experience, and then even from there getting out to the virtual space. So you can do things in a progression sales kind of tool, or you can sell from mobile experience sometimes, but it all depends, the more access that's out there, the better it is. Yeah.
I just had a question back to the motion or
Yeah.
teleporting. Have you had any experience with chairs that they're selling and making these days where
The VR chairs?
yeah.
Has anyone? I've seen them. I have not been in one.
They're pretty interesting. They're cheap.
I was gonna say right? No? Okay, sorry. I personally have not tried one. I've seen pictures. I haven't tried one, so I can't speak to it too much. No?
Are you talking about the ones in the malls right now, or are you talking about the ones in the malls, like Schaumburg Mall?
No. It's just there's a bunch of companies in the UK or wherever that make a chair, and then when you're looking, you're sitting in a chair, and it just moves you automatically through it. So you're not actually having to stand there and push a motion. That you'd be sitting in a chair, and as you move, your head moves, and I can actually a couple of
I was gonna say the one thing I've seen is more the treadmills, which are kind of neat.
treadmills.
Where the treadmills is an omnidirectional treadmill, so no matter which way you're walking, you'll actually walk that way in virtual space. I haven't personally seen that in a chair experience. I've seen a couple pictures of people in VR chairs, but I don't know what they're doing in the experience. Did you have something to add or a question?
Yeah, I have something to add.
Go.
So I haven't tried that one specifically, but I did try.
Oh,
Okay. Well, I haven't tried that one specifically, but I did try one at mall, and I think it was Untitled. And it was pretty cool, but I can't really see an application for like selling anything.
So one of our audience members is saying he has tried one. It was at the mall. What was the experience that you were in?
It was like a roller coaster, like roller.
So was it one of the roller coaster things?
Yeah, but it was like one of those swings like this.
Okay. How was the motion sickness on it? The answer was this, Facebook.
I can't really see an application where you want to sell anything uses it. It would just be more for gaming.
So I was going to say, real quick, this has come up several times, and I'll let you guys jump in and answer if you want. In terms of locomotion, there's lots of different ways to do locomotion in VR. And for mobile VR, what's kind of interesting is that you generally don't have controllers. So if you're just doing something on a mobile device, so generally the way to move around is you use what's called gaze cast. So you'll have a single pixel, and you'll look at a hotspot and you'll move to it. When you have controllers,
You can do things like pushing forward, you know, an actual like push control where you'll move when you do that. That does tend to have a high frequency of motion sickness, because when you're physically moving like that, but your legs aren't moving, your body recognizes that it causes problems. Teleportation is one of the common ways to solve that, because teleportation tends to not cause the sickness as much, because what'll happen is you'll teleport either instantly if you black out and just kind of fade, or what'll happen is the space around you will kind of tunnel out, and that limits motion sickness as well. Locomotion, like I said, it's one of those things that is constantly talked about in VR, and there are lots of solutions for it. It's hard to say what the ideal is. There's lots of ways to address it, and honestly, the way to address it for a particular situation would determine what's the best for it. Does that help, I guess? Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that
All this stuff is so new.
it's very new and people are figuring it out.
Somebody seriously calling me right now?
Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, what do you see as a typical engagement time? How long do people keep a headset on for? Is there anything that commonality of why they stop using it? Do they ever get in a case where they don't want to take it off, they want to stay in the work with the role? How is that? What do you see? What kind of occurrence?
So the question is, how do you essentially politely get people out of an experience when they don't want to exit it? So essentially they see something that's really cool, they want to stay in. Who wants to take this?
For us, customers typically put on the headset for about, I would say, 3 to 5 minutes, because they're changing surfaces, they're changing floors, all the stuff. But there are some customers who really don't want to get rid of the experience. They want to be in that experience for an extended period of time. We would like them to be in the experience, and we want to be polite, and so we let them take their own sweet time until somebody who's their, a partner or spouse, whoever it is, and they'll say, you know what, it's my turn now. Let me experience it. I have enough of watching the TV now. I want to put on the headset.
Yeah, I would say it kind of varies a lot depending on the situation. Sometimes, such as what there was out here before and what will probably be after the meeting, there's the next person standing behind and ready, so you know you have a couple minutes. In other cases, though, more specific, when it's for real estate, showing a property or showing a kitchen or a bathroom, it may just depend on the customer. Maybe they just want to get an overview, maybe they're interested in, and because we can see on the monitor what they're looking at. So it may be, and again, more for like a real estate sales situation, if your big concern is the kitchen because your wife loves to cook and you've got questions about it, you could stay there forever so that we can help sell you on the kitchen. So yeah, the 3 to 5 minutes generally, but it more depends on the situation with us and also how it's being used. If they're going, it might be important, like from our point of view, if they're going to look at the second bedroom, the second bathroom, to be able to compare versus, oh, I saw the living room, okay, I've got a good idea of what this is, thank you very much, is maybe not as good as, of an experience.
I think a lot of it depends on the application. For just straight up marketing, it's about 4 per minute average, which again, compared to watching a video, which is just 8 seconds attention span, the engagement rate is already hundreds of % higher. But if we go back to commercial real estate, because I want to touch on that too, because clearly we kind of naturally navigate towards homes and home ownership and residential, but really if we look into how it's used for commercial real estate, office space, it's a huge part of decision-making process. So there are people who have it for 25 minutes as they're deciding the finishes, the TI improvements, and that's where the value and the longevity of the product is really the largest, because it's not limited to until it's built. It's unlimited for as long as you're going to keep leasing up and changing tenants in that office, and then you're utilizing it differently. Then you're invested in having your tenants have it for 20 minutes because they're actually making meaningful decisions and saving you time on changing their mind later on the carpet and things like that.
Yeah, I got 2 quick questions. One is, are you working on any third-party engines like Unity or Unreal? That's the first question. Next question is have you done any work with Star VR yet?
I got the first one.
Can you repeat the second part?
So the two questions real quick. So number one, he wants to know kind of what engines you guys are working on, Unity, Unreal, Revit, that sort of stuff. And then the second question is, has anyone worked on Star VR?
We use Unity. Yeah. Easy to use. There are a lot of APIs and tools available for the Unity platform.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was pretty much for the devs, I guess.
We use Unreal Engine for a portion of it, and then we have a custom software for model optimization to get to that GPU downgrade. So a combination. The beauty of Unreal is you can do visual programming, but so it's easy to use, but you can also do the actual coding through C++ and Visual Tools, which gives us a ton of flexibility on software development end. So that works particularly for us because of the type of interactions we're doing.
I was going to say on our side, we use a whole lot of different tools. We do use Unity, we do use Unreal a little bit, not so much, more Unity. In terms of the modeling, we use all sorts of stuff. So we get a lot of the stuff we get from our customers. So we'll use things that come out of Revit and, honestly from SketchUp and everything basically in terms of models. And then we also, use Blender and all the 3D modeling tools. So all sorts of tools.
Yeah, and haven't used Star VR. I have.
Yeah, I've never heard of Star VR.
It's a really cool. It's got a very high field of vision, a very high degree. There's no, it's seamless.
We'll look into it.
Looking like that, for example, it's a very narrow field of vision, like most VR devices.
Okay.
So I just wanted to
Never seen it. Honestly, never heard of it before. But we'll look into it now. I'm sure.
I would look out for it. It's going to be a big thing.
Other questions? I think you're thinking of the Leap Motion one. The bug eye thing?
No, it's like the headset costs about $5 grand. It's higher resolution than the drawing.
Oh, Pimax.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the one. Yeah, the 8K one, which I haven't seen yet, but I've got two questions as to whether or not it's going to be at next month's meetup because we do the hardware show. So, other questions? It is 7:30, so we can get back to doing demos at this point if we really want to. But are there any other questions? Yeah, one more question right here.
Are you using live view?
What's that?
Live view capture device.
Live view capture?
Live view.
Life view.
Live.
Light view.
Remote live view.
Sorry. What's the question?
So how would you send me live
Sorry, the
view?
air handlers are kind of
Live view capture.
Oh, light field capture.
Yeah.
Does anyone work with light field yet? Lytro was doing the cameras. I think a lot of people are doing point cloud stuff. I haven't seen anything doing actual light field capture. I know Lytro has their systems and they're doing a lot of shooting with it. I haven't really seen much since the Messiah video. Has anyone else? No? Do you guys even know what I'm talking about or no? The guy who shot the video of him singing, I think it was Messiah. Handel's Messiah, but they were in like the big church and, no, okay, sorry. I'll share that video because it was pretty cool, but I haven't seen anyone actually do anything with it since then.
People using like GoPro and a custom vehicle live view capture.
Sorry. I haven't seen a GoPro that can do a light field.
It's on the CCRC web.
I'll talk to you afterwards and we'll share some links out because I'm not sure about any of this. Any other questions? Any other last comments?
Thank you.
No? Okay, cool. Thank you everyone for coming. Again, we'll get back to some demos in a second. Real quick reminders. So next week, 9th and 10th at 1871, there are free education sessions on 360 video shooting and VR. 20th, there is, I think Kazi left, so I can't talk about the FinTech event. There is a FinTech blockchain, I think, event on the 19th. We'll share posts about it. It'll be on Facebook. On the 20th is the 2112 Immersive Tech event. This meetup takes place, we changed topics, so this month it was VR, last month it was video games and gaming, the month before that it was commercial printing. We changed the basic industry topic, but this event takes place every single month. It's usually, at this point, it's always on the first Wednesday. We'll see if that lasts after the next year. We might change it to a different day for the next year, but it'll always be on the same day every month, and it will take place every month. This is our format. It's informal. We want you guys to come here with your questions so you can take whatever your next step is, and we will always have demos. So if you have somebody who has never tried VR, bring them here so they can try it. Because, as I've said many times, we can talk for hours. 5 minutes in a headset is better than 5 hours of talking about it, 2 hours of watching videos on it. 5 minutes in that headset really kind of gives people the understanding of what is VR, and seeing some stuff on augmented reality is the same way. That said, I'm going to shut up. Please, enjoy some food and drinks, network, talk to the people around you, as well as our panelists here if you have any questions. Thanks for joining us on Facebook. I did see we actually had some viewers watching, which is kind of cool. And other than that, we'll see you hopefully next month. Thank you much.